If you see security siloed, if they're off on their own and they're not part of the integrated team, they're probably not doing it. If your people aren't together, if they're not working together as a team, there's no way that technical outcomes are going to be integrated either.
DevSecOps gets talked about a lot in defense. Yolanda Clarke actually has to make it work for real missions, real customers, and real consequences. Yolanda Clarke is the founder and CEO of Powder River Industries and a U.S. Army intelligence officer in the reserves with over 20 years of military service. While continuing to serve, she built Powder River to help defense and national security teams move faster without compromising trust, security, or mission. In this episode, we get real about what DevSecOps actually looks like in practice, how military experience wires leaders to take smart risks, and what it takes to scale a defense tech company when the stakes are real. Welcome to the studio, Yolanda.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me.
Well, for those of us that don't live and breathe in your world, DevSecOps gets thrown around a lot. Help us understand what it means.
I guess the simplest way I can explain it is at the beginning of a project, you've got a set of requirements and outcomes that you have to achieve. Before you even start building, at least that's how we do it, we pull in all of the security requirements, whether they're, and I take a holistic approach. I'll say we take a holistic approach to that from the engineering perspective of all security requirements, whether they're physical, personnel, or system security, pull them all in and evaluate them as design elements so that as we're building, they're equal in all of our operational requirements, and they get built into our system development practices in a natural way through the progression of the development cycle from the very beginning. And that's, it pains me to say, because I've been doing this a long time, that still there are projects where folks come in and try to do security or get ATO, authority to operate, at the end of a project. And it
like as an afterthought.
Yeah. And that just completely breaks the schedule, and the contract ends up being over budget, over schedule. Customers aren't happy, and engineering's not happy, and operations not happy, because you have to go back and re-engineer something, and it isn't ever going to work the way they wanted it to work because you had to make some compromise. And so what I love about DevSecOps is you don't have to compromise if you think about it in the beginning.
Okay. So really being thoughtful about philosophy, integrating it into the design, and holding the project accountable to all these pieces, from a day one perspective.
Yeah, it really brings design. I mean, using it as an element of design thinking and user-centered design, like when you're thinking about all those things up front, security doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to compromise an operational improvement or desire and just to meet security requirements. You can have both. It's allowed and it's possible, technically possible. You just have to plan it right.
Well, and I think so many senior leaders, you ask them what's keeping it up at night, security breaches. And, how do we know when we're truly secure, those type of things? But you raise a good point. So a lot of defense-related orgs say, we do DevSecOps. And I know it used to be DevOps. What's the fastest way to tell if it's real or just PowerPoint fluff?
Probably not what, at least one of the indicators I would look at would be the org chart, or an accountability chart. How is the program structured? How are the teams structured? If you see security siloed, if they're off on their own and they're not part of the integrated team, they're probably not doing it. They're probably doing it in some traditional way. And there's nothing wrong with tradition. I love tradition, but
if it's not integrated, that is a red flag.
Yeah. And it comes down to the organization. If your people aren't together, if they're not working together as a team, there's no way that technical outcomes are going to be integrated either.
Mm-hmm. So let's take it back and imagine you are in control of a monster defense-related budget, whether you're a middle market or tier 2 as well, and you're going to outsource DevSecOps because you don't have it in-house, or evaluating your options. One of the things you should ask is, tell me about your team structure. What's another thing you should ask?
What are the requirements? Like, what are your, every department or customer agency may have something different, commercial practices or defense practices, and there'll be different regulations. So what is the requirement set? And if they don't know, they're pretty far from it. If they can't rattle off the list or they don't understand the question, I've had customers not even understand the question that I'm asking. What that tells me is that on the federal side, because we only really work with federal customers, even as a subcontractor to the prime, if they're not able to quickly respond, they haven't thought about it. And probably what's going to be an even longer delay in your process, or in the schedule, really, like a long lead item in the schedule, will be external dependencies with the accreditation authorities. Because if they don't know the requirements or the regulations, they don't know the people who are responsible for implementing them. And at the end of the security roads, whether that's personnel, physical, or system, there is some federal entity that has authority over that scope and those regulations and those requirements that has to sign off in some way. If you don't know who they are and you don't have a relationship with them and you come at them with this cold, like, they don't know who you are. They don't trust you. They don't know what you've been doing. They don't know how you got there. You have a lot longer journey with them.
Okay, so make sure whoever you're using, whether it's internal or external, is an insider, knows the players, knows the certs, and is integrated in terms of the structure.
I mean, that's ideal, but we don't usually work in ideal worlds. At least they should be asking those questions and willing to go do the work, do the discovery, build those relationships.
All right, you heard it first. That's how you start to sleep better at night if security breaches are keeping you up. Yolanda, you are an ultimate insider, and we both share a almost Powder River connection too.
Aww. Yeah.
Tell me about early career, and thank you in advance for your 20+ year long service, and how you got to Powder River via the Army, via Lockheed.
Sure. Well, for those who don't know, Katherine's from Montana and I'm from Wyoming. So
two mountain girls.
We might be related. I don't know. How did I get to Powder River? I guess without going too far back, growing up, I really didn't have any passion, interest, curiosity in the jobs that were in front of my face, right? Like the things I could see. So as I was growing up,
Cheyenne, Wyoming?
Sheridan. Yeah. And I just couldn't see myself doing those things. I had a lot of energy, a lot of passion, a lot of curiosity. And the stories I read, the movies I watched, there was always military involvement. My dad was in the Army, and it just sounded like a place that might be for me. A place that, like where people with similar interests might be, and I might go be able to make a difference or get inspired or whatever. So I joined the military. That was certainly major shaping moment for my life, for the way I think, the things I care about. And then after a number of years on active duty, I wanted to kind of have that experience that my peers were having from back home, like working in companies with jobs, and they didn't have ranks and titles and things. They had jobs.
Not everybody becomes an intelligence officer when they enlist either.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought, well, let's go try one of those job things. And my first, well, like my first real material job was at Lockheed out of the military, and that was fantastic. I mean, what a great group of people. Holy cow. Such a transformational experience. So in terms of like my leadership philosophies and shaping moments on the way I think about leadership and management, certainly the military had a big influence. Lockheed had a big influence. I
And
went
you were
through
doing cybersecurity engineering there?
I did. I started in what is called information operations. So I was on the defensive side of IO and on the engineering side. And then I moved back and forth across different types of programs, um, just kind of following my passion, following my curiosity, working with great teams. If the way it works there is, or at least it used to, I'm sure it still does, is you'd work well with an engineering team, you'd solve some problem, you'd hear about that same problem on it or a similar program or a similar problem on a different program somewhere. So then you'd all go over to that program and work on the solution there. And it was a really good way to get a lot of diverse experience, be exposed to lots of technology, different customer environments, learn a lot really fast in a very structured way.
So you went from arguably like one of the biggest organizations, the US Army, to another monster behemoth, Lockheed. And 13 years later, do a total pivot, and this, a lot of people we never see really, in hiring managers I talk to, it's after 5 to 7 years, people have been institutionalized at the primes. Good ideas don't come to fruition. We want entrepreneurial, we want scrappy. And you kind of blew that whole theory out of the water because you went and started your own thing.
Yeah, it wasn't without some resistance.
Tell me about that moment and that decision filter where you're like, we're going to leave this safe job that I have really been excelling at and do something else.
Um, Well, so I'll add that I don't think I really picked a traditional path in Lockheed either. I really chased what we called red programs, which were programs that were having problems, and knew that if there was something to learn, that's where I was going to learn it. So, kind of continuing to take that managed risk approach, from certainly taking lots of risks in the military, taking risks at Lockheed. My ability to manage risk in lots of different scenarios had been pretty tested. So when I looked at entrepreneur life or the entrepreneur journey, it obviously is filled with risk, but I felt like I had a pretty good toolkit from those previous experiences to manage risk. And
you'd been successful in some tough situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was confidence.
I lived. I mean, I survived, but did you die? No, I'm fine. I'm here. We're good. I lived another day.
You did not die. You lived another day. Are here to tell your story.
Yeah.
Framed that way, it doesn't appear to be as big of a risk.
Right.
Yeah, it's about the frame you put around it.
It really is. And I was, my husband and I was married. I got married while I was working at Lockheed through that period of my life. And my husband was active duty in the Marine Corps, and we were looking at another set of orders. I was speaking with a colleague at work and just sort of brainstorming in this empty office. And I said, "Oh, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I go get a job." And it just sort of echoed back to me. And she looked at me like, "That's what we're doing right now. We have jobs. This is the worst that could happen, is exactly where you are, exactly right now. The worst that could happen is it doesn't work and you get a job like most people. That's not bad." So it's in my mind, I was like, if I can take this risk, I can take this calculated risk. Why not? I'm young enough. I have enough time left to course correct if it doesn't go well, and definitely will be some stories to tell. And then there won't be any regrets either. Like I'll never have to say, I wish I would have.
Mm-hmm. How'd you go about funding it? You don't seem the type of person that's like terrified of going bankrupt.
Oh, well, I'm very fiscally conservative. So the probability of me going bankrupt, knock on wood, is probably pretty low. I knew that I knew that the entrepreneurial world was for me. I just didn't know when, I didn't know how, I didn't know where. So I've been saving forever, and on my deployments, I would like, you really can't spend money when you're deployed in the military. So I just saved everything from my deployments. And then my husband and I lived off one salary, knowing that this was on the horizon for me and needing to plan ahead. I mean, part of if you're in a relationship with anybody as an entrepreneur and you're going into startup, you got to work together on that. Not many relationships survive startup.
Personal life savings plus crazy amounts of hours.
Yeah. And you're not going to be the person that they met. Like, it changes who you are. It changes what you do. It changes how you think. It changes every demand of you as a person, of your time and energy. You cannot be the same person you were when you met your significant other. So just preparing for that, we just decided to live off one salary kind of on day one. And so had a very decent savings, from just being very conservative fiscally.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you put your personal savings all into it. Not like you were going out for fundraising rounds. No, you were all in.
Well, and no one was going to fund me either. I mean, I kind of dabbled in that realm, and I don't have the pedigree for it. I didn't at the time. I suppose if I went to the table now, it might be a different story. But I wasn't a proven entrepreneur. I wasn't a serial entrepreneur. I didn't have this track record of success in startup and entrepreneurial life. Now, that might be a different story today, but the majority of startups do not receive external funding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all in.
Yeah.
So you're actively serving currently as a U.S. Army reservist while running your company. How does that reality change how you think about risk, about speed, and about accountability?
Oh, that's a good list. Speed.
We talked a little bit about risk too. Yeah, in terms of being a reservist.
Risk. Well, obviously risk. I think running a good business and accepting risk are not mutually exclusive. If anything, they should be tandem, hand in hand. Any good business should be able to operate without you, and that's the hallmark of a good business.
The hallmark of a good business. I think we've all read that book, and then the reality of making that happen is so stinking hard.
It's so hard.
I think about my 6-person team. I'm like, oh my God, how am I ever going to take a vacation?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is so hard. It's so hard, and you have to test it. So, I mean, and I do test it. Like this year, I took an extra week that I didn't take last year. I'm taking more time off.
Have you taken 10 full days ever?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good business.
Yeah, I just did that. It was amazing. Road trip, Spain. It was amazing. And my team.
You're pressure testing your business. I love it.
I am, and I'm having a great time doing it. And I think my team's having a great time too. And we celebrate every good thing we possibly can. Someone asked me this morning, where would you describe your company? Where is it today? And I'd say we're just past the messy middle. I can still see it in my rearview mirror. It's right back there, but we're super laser focused on repeatability, kind of institutionalizing risk management. I have a role on, I've never seen this in any other company, but I don't think I ever really do anything the way anybody else does anyway. So why start now? A role in my company, and then I also have this role on our largest prime contract, which I affectionately call Workflow Boss. And
Workflow Boss.
Yeah.
Tell me more. I have not ever recruited for this title.
No, and nobody does. I think it's like business systems analyst is the job title. But what they do, or what they're doing, is they're studying us. They're studying me to make sure, like just watching and observing, like in our different functional areas, doing operational due diligence on all of our processes, procedures. Are we doing what we said we were going to do? if we have a process. If we have a gap, what is the gap? Identifying it, and then filling that. Is that actually getting done? And is it being done by me or someone in the company? And we just haven't put a process to it. So these folks are doing that and writing into the gaps. And that way, everything is kind of locked down, baselines, and we baseline those processes, and then we go into the steps of improving them and removing waste.
I want to put a pin in this one because so often we work with, founders or, they just got bought or something happens, and putting process behind, the company when it's essentially your baby can be really not in the strength of skill set of a lot of entrepreneurs. So not only do you have to get your ego out and say, okay, anybody can do this, we just need to break it down, but then you actually have to put, in your case, workflow boss or somebody in charge of capturing these pieces and ensuring that integrity. How did you know when the right time was to bring in workflow boss? I love this idea.
Thank you. I had already done quite a bit in terms of systems and like full ERP implementation, and we've used all the tools we have in the best way possible. We've got instructions and all that. And so thinking in terms of growth and scale and knowing what it has taken every time in the company that we've done that. So like for the last 4 years, we've doubled in revenue every year, and we're 10 years old. So
You've doubled in revenue year over year for 4 years.
It's hard.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank
Each
you.
year it gets harder.
It gets harder every year. And so thinking about if that were to happen in 2026, oh, hey, ho, okay. All right. So I love my team and I don't want to hurt them and I don't want them to be hurt by their job. So this was really to come in and protect us and then allow us to scale. So knowing where I had to scale last year or the year before, understanding we're going to have to scale again because we already have, at least on contract now, if we win nothing else, a 30% growth on our base on contract already in our backlog right now.
How many employees total?
About 70. And that's with both
10-year-old company, but yeah.
Yeah, that's includes our subcontractors and some consultants, but growing in double-digit percentages now is a lot of work. Like it's truly work coming in, and the people who we have today can't do it all. We have to hire more people, but we want to ensure that we're having the same delivery experience for our customers. And then I also want to bring new capabilities in. So I'm kind of turning Powder River into a platform for Powder River. And so when we have new capabilities, when we are capable of bringing something in, we don't break what we already have. And when we have friction with the new capability, we'll be able to identify exactly where that friction is in our processes, procedures, tools, systems, and then make adjustments and rethink and restructure those to stabilize the new work coming in and then not break the old work and the good work that we love and the customers that we love and the teams that we love.
Mm-hmm. In your world, failure has real consequences. How does that change the way you lead and invest in those new capabilities?
The reality is I've always been in environments like that, whether it's the military or Lockheed. I mean, Lockheed works on all manner of systems and from the F-35 to satellite systems, right? So I don't know that really changed as much as I had to make it repeatable. Because not everybody I hire comes from where I came from. And getting that into a transferable, trainable, measurable accountability system, that's really what it took to And that's what it takes to do it every day, is high accountability, letting people know what they have to do to succeed, and then holding them accountable for it, measuring it. And we check very frequently. Like, we have a management meeting every week, and we have quarterly goals that we meet and a scorecard that we measure against. And we stat aside every week as as a leadership team. So there's not really a chance, like the point of deviation is not going to be too big, too fast that we don't see it and hold each other accountable to that. And then if we are starting to see a trend of deviation against a metric, getting really down into the root cause quickly. Why are we not meeting that metric? Is it something we control? Is it the right metric? And asking ourselves that question, and then making the change to get back on track and make sure that we're not deviating from what we said we were going to do. Being highly processed as well, like high procedure, high process, everybody's doing the same thing, everybody's delivering the same way. It's a heck of a lot easier to identify the outliers when all our minds are trained to deliver in a similar way. And we also use our core values as management tools. Like, we talk about them all day, every day, and we measure those too. Are we walking the walk and not just the talk? So with that whole leadership focus on the very exact same things. There's no agendas. If there's no time or place for another agenda. We have shared goals, forward motion, and then if people don't want to be on that bus, they can leave, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier to handle an employee that may not have the same shared values, and you have values conflicts, and you can really identify that as a team, not just me as a CEO of a company. And these are all tools that my team leaders can use too.
Mm-hmm. You hired 70 people.
Yeah.
A lot of them very recently. What's the number one quality you look for during the interview process?
Coachability. Yeah. How do you learn? Do you have a learning mindset? Our worlds, and I think anybody who's lived in, from COVID to administration changes to FAR overhauls, like our world is changing so fast and so drastically. To conceive of doing things the same way that we've always done them is, you're not gonna survive. So understanding that none of us know all the answers, but willing to create an answer and not be afraid of that.
Well, and you say that, and I was curious as I was hiring my most recent recruiter, Chase Rogie, now on board out of Tampa. I did, for that interview process, intentionally a role play where I would critique the recruiter. And I didn't care how the role play went, but I cared how they responded. And I actually had a team member also do that. I cared how they responded to the feedback. And so it's so hard. You can excel in an interview and then they come in and 2 weeks later, this is the recruiter's nightmare, is they're not who they presented themselves to be. And so in an interview, do you ever role play that, or how do you really get to the crux of that?
Well, I probably have an unusually detailed response to that.
Well, we'll close with it then. Let's hear it.
We are in a mentor protege. We've been in a mentor protege with a staffing firm for going on 3 years. So they have been extremely gracious with their mentorship, and I've crawled through everything I can in their company. So we qualify every single rec of the company. Our qualification sheet is 4 pages unpopulated. From qualitative to quantitative data, it has everything about every role. And we study that and we plan, and that could take a while to prepare. So that happens as soon as we're done with the proposal. we move right into the staffing plan, and then we move right into those qualifications of the rec. So we know we have a very, very defined rec. We know what we're looking for. And then another tool we've implemented last year was the predictive index. And that seems like that is just too good to be true. So if you're not familiar with that, in a very high level, our team, select members of the team, will create a profile for the successful candidate within the predictive index framework. And then the recruiters use traditional recruiting tools to find the candidates that meet the qualification sheet. But then the next level is have them go through the predictive index, and do they match the profile of the successful candidate that the team has created. If they have, they get advanced into an interview. If they don't, we don't even look at them. We're not going to put the wrong person in the right, it's the wrong person, wrong seat. We want the right person in the right seat. And then we do phased interviews. Then we move into more traditional. We'll do the initial interview with whoever's selected to do that. And then always a second interview, ideally in person if possible, and ideally with a group that's going to be working with that person. So by the time we get to our candidate, we have put so much sweat equity into their success. We are very invested in the people that we hire before they walk through the door. And then when they do come in, I think they tend to feel that. And especially when we use predictive index, they tend to feel like our new hires who come in through that process feel very much like they're in the right place, doing the right thing. And it's such a beautiful thing to see after many years of trial and error and not seeing it go so well. So yeah, really appreciating that, and looking forward to more of it.
And I've seen it swing both ways too. Sometimes you lose because we can't move quick enough in terms of the speed to hire as well. I've heard people say, hey, they didn't line up at all with the PI, but you know what? Maybe we got it a little off because we love this guy and still want to hire. What happens when they're not like perfectly aligned with what you think you want, but you still want to hire them?
We have not had that happen.
All right.
We really haven't.
It'll come next
Really?
year when you double. Yeah.
Oh boy, I hope not. We tend to trust the data. We tend to trust the data, and we will. Yeah. I don't know. Well, I'll let you know when we cross that road.
Well, it's a controversy always in recruiter speak because a lot of our clients do use PIs. Others say, not for us. So yeah, it sounds like you are a big fan and it's worked really well for Powder River.
Yeah, and this is for those roles that we control. If we're in, there are plenty of scenarios, particularly as a subcontractor with larger businesses, where speed wins. And I tend not to chase work that is in those competitive transactional staffing scopes. It's just not really where we want to spend our time. And I think if we haven't, knock on wood, but if we did see it, I think we'd probably see it there in those types of contracts where speed is the winner and they're not focused on the qualitative characteristics. So this is our approach for more of that curated engineering type of scopes that we have to work in.
Well, getting it wrong is extremely expensive, and it sounds like you've gotten a lot of things right. Yolanda, this has been so much fun. Thank you for sharing your scaling journey and your story with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.